Hello, my name is Pamela Baker, and today we'll be discussing characteristics of autism. Autism may be characterized by a variety of markers, a couple of which are cognitive characteristics and neurological characteristics. Cognitive characteristics include both social and communication deficits. One cognitive characteristic is joint attention. Joint attention is when two people focus on an object and they share interest in it. Interest is gained by an eye gaze, a point, or a verbal prompt. People with autism have a difficult time with joint attention. Theory of mind is another cognitive characteristic. This is when a person with autism cannot believe that other people have different thoughts, interests, beliefs, and ideas than they do, and they cannot understand why people believe differently. A student in my class has difficulty with theory of mind. He sets up intricate games with very rigid rules and expects all of his friends to play just the way he wants them to. And he doesn't understand when they want to change the rules to help them feel better about the game, and is not willing to be flexible in any way. And he gets very upset when people decide not to play with him. Cognitive inflexibility is another characteristic of autism. Here, people are very stuck in their routines and are unwilling to change, or they see just one way of doing things and no other one will work, and even if it doesn't work, that's the one that they stick to. Neurological characteristics are another aspect of autism. These might include seizures, ADHD, repetitive behavior, sensory issues, sleeping disorders, self-injurious behaviors, and language disorders. Some of my students have ADHD in my classroom, and they have a difficult time sitting, staying still, or being focused on the proper activities. In my class, I have some pillows that they can sit on their chairs. We have hula hoops that they can run and jump inside, and fidgets to help them focus on peers and staff. Most of my students also have language disorders that coexist with autism. Some of them cannot speak at all, and we use picture exchange communication system to help them with that. They can use pictures to help express their needs and wants, and they can build that to sentences and thoughts and be able to communicate with peers and staff. When diagnosing people with autism, there are certain characteristics that you should look for. They're social, behavioral, sensory, and communication. People with autism may exhibit communicational characteristics. These might include delayed language. It may also include echolalia, where people repeat things that other people say to them and do not respond to questions or statements. They may also have repetitive language, where they repeat things over and over again, such as partial lyrics to music, or pieces of stories, movies, or action videos. People with autism may take language very literally and keep it from word to word rather than figurative language. They don't understand all the fluff that comes with the language, and they also have a difficult time understanding jokes. People with autism may have a difficult time initiating conversations, sustaining conversations, sticking to the topics, or switching topics when typical peers are ready to switch topics. They may perseverate on those topics instead of being able to go with the flow of the conversation. Most students in my class with autism also have speech and language delays, and they are able to see our speech pathologist to be able to build on the skills that they may be lacking and needing to develop. Students with autism may have trouble with social interactions. This is a characteristic. They may have trouble making friendships and keeping friendships because their interests are very limited and they're inflexible and not willing to have a give and take with friends their own age. Often people with autism do not understand verbal cues. They cannot read gestures, eye contact, and other body language that helps them understand what's happening with the person that they're interacting with. Many times people with autism have a tough time taking turns in play and in conversation. This makes it difficult for people to want to interact with them socially. At times they can be very inflexible at play, and that their play has to be one way, And if they want other students to play with them, they have to build a more flexible play. And this is very difficult for students with autism. Oftentimes, it's very difficult for people with autism to regulate their emotions. They could be very angry at times, or maybe not even feel the emotions they should be feeling. This makes it difficult for people they're interacting with to understand their responses to emotional situations and conversations. People with autism may exhibit sensory characteristics. These characteristics surround the senses of taste, touch, sight, smell, and hearing. They may be hyposensitive or hypersensitive or have mixed sensitivities to these senses. If they have sensory issues with touch, they may not like certain textures, tags, or clothing that touch their skin. They may also not have enough feeling for touch. One way we try to help with touch sensitivities is to ask parents to cut tags off if they're bothering their students, maybe change their laundry detergent, or change the texture of clothes from wool to cotton, depending on what the process is with the student's sensory issue. Some students are extra sensitive to visual stimuli. For instance, if light bothers them, they may need to wear sunglasses, even if it's inside. In our classroom, we're able to use blue covers over our fluorescent lights, and that dims the fluorescent lights and allows a calming effect for our students who have that kind of light sensitivity. Other students may seek more light and need more windows open so that the light can come in. Other students may just stare at an object for a long time and just be getting stimuli from that. And other students cannot give eye gaze because if they're looking with eye contact, it may be too much stimuli for them and they're not able to create that long eye contact. Oftentimes, the sense of smell can be hyposensitive, and that means that they're not able to get enough smell stimuli, and they smell everything around them, including things that you wouldn't imagine, like maybe your skin or some other different things. In other cases, they may be repulsed by certain smells, and you'll hear them yell out when they smell a smell that bothers them a lot. And it could be even a smell that you don't think would bother anybody, or something that you might not be able to smell yourself. The sense of taste can be an issue for people. Some students have a very limited palate and they don't eat a lot of food. Textures may bother them. Other students may need to get more stimuli and they lick and taste things that aren't even food. You can't imagine why they're doing that, but it's because they're getting some kind of sensory input from things that we don't need that same kind of input from. The sense of hearing can also be an issue for people. When noises are coming in too loud or too many noises and it's difficult for the person to screen out, or they only focus on one sound and you know right away that they can hear this sound that maybe no one else in the classroom can hear, and they may be yelling about it in the classroom. One way to help take care of that is to get noise blocking headphones, close windows and doors to screen out some of those other sounds, and try to maintain a level 1 voice in your classroom so that everybody can hear and pay attention to what's very close to them. The last characteristic I'll talk about is behavioral characteristics. Students with autism have very different behavioral characteristics. They may be very preoccupied or obsessed with a topic or material or toy, and that they will talk about it and use it over and over again in ways that aren't typical. They may replay parts of scenes of movies or cartoons or TV shows over and over again, or a simple part of a lyric of a song may be replayed over and over and over again. Many students with autism exhibit repetitive movements such as flapping, rocking, and other things like that that help stimulate them or soothe them. Being resistant to change is a characteristic of autism. Some people cannot have any different foods, they wear the same clothes, they have to have the same routines, and these things have to happen in the same way every time. Disruptions in routines, rituals, repetitive behaviors, and movements can add anxiety to the student, and they may have meltdowns, temper tantrums. They could have self-injurious behaviors, which include hitting themselves or banging their heads or biting themselves or even pinching themselves. One student of mine is obsessed with Legos, and he has to build Legos all the time. And if he doesn't have enough time with Legos, then he has a meltdown. In order to help him with this, we created a Lego ticket, and the Lego ticket is given to him if it takes too long for him to do his work and he doesn't have enough free time for Legos. We offer him the ticket when his work is finished so that he can have the same amount of time with Legos, and that way it motivates him to get his work and it avoids a meltdown. Thanks so much for watching this video on autism. I hope you were able to benefit from it, and thanks again for listening.